thank you for joining our live event this evening. We have the pleasure tonight of being joined by our expert speaker, Todd Schleyer, for this 1-hour session, Understanding Dyslexia, Basics and Beyond. Todd holds a bachelor's degree in cognitive behavioral psychology and has over 20 years of experience working with children and adults in special education, community mental health, and developmental disabilities. He's worked in over 100 schools in his local school district and is also an instructor here at Ashton College with the Education Assistant Diploma. Tonight, he will help us get a better understanding of dyslexia. I'll give over the stage to Todd now. And welcome, Todd, and we can't wait to learn from you tonight.
Thank you, Davina. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad that you are here. My hope tonight is that we can briefly go over this very complex situation. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you and answering your questions. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So again, tonight is a basic discussion on dyslexia and the hurdles that go along with it. I like to usually start things off by kind of redefining the lens on what we understand around dyslexia. This is a great quote from Dr. Sally Shawitz. Dyslexia is not a disease. It's a different brain organization that needs different teaching methods. So, what are we going to do tonight? So in this presentation, we're going to embark on a journey to understand dyslexia from a holistic perspective. We'll begin by defining dyslexia, clarifying what it is and what it isn't. That's really important. And explore its neurological underpinnings. We'll then discuss the prevalence of dyslexia and its potential impact throughout an individual's life. Next, we'll shift our focus to an often overlooked strength-based approach around the dyslexic mind. We'll delve into unique cognitive abilities that individuals with dyslexia often possess, such as creativity, problem-solving skills, spatial reasoning. We'll also highlight a few, and you'll see in some of the videos, some more, I guess you could say, celebrity-like people that also suffer with dyslexia. Finally, we'll acknowledge the challenges that individuals with dyslexia may encounter, both in an academic setting and in daily life. So we'll discuss the emotional and social aspects of dyslexia and explore strategies for support and empowerment. So hopefully, by the end of tonight in our presentation, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of what dyslexia is, its strengths, its challenges, and the pathways to success for those who experience it. All right. So first, let's figure out what it is and what it isn't. So if you take a look at the image here, you'll notice that it's a fairly diverse image. People from all different walks of life. And that is the story behind dyslexia. It affects everyone, all ages, all backgrounds, abilities. It's not a one-size-fits-all condition. So some of the key points that we need to understand: dyslexia is not a sign of low intelligence or a lack of effort. We're going to throw all those judgments out the window right now. It's also important to note that often when we talk about dyslexia, it gets thrown in with some other neurological differences, like dyscalculia, which is number sense and mathematical reasoning issues, dysgraphia, which is fine motor skills. Usually it's visual spatial processing and language processing for writing. There's dyspraxia, which is more of a motor movement problem around sequencing and execution. Um, Also, a result of laziness or a lack of effort. This is not part of what dyslexia is. What it is a neurobiological difference in the brain's language processing. So it's a difference in the wiring of the brain. It's a lifelong condition, but it's manageable with support. It's characterized by difficulties in reading, spelling, writing, and phonological awareness. Specific challenges and strengths vary. They really do vary among individuals. In all of my time working in the education system, I don't think I've ever seen two students that have dyslexia that suffered in the same way or dealt with the same hurdles. So it's really important to understand that there's a lot of nuance here. And when we're helping and we're supporting students and then people into adulthood, it's important that we look at this through the scope of individualization. So from a neurobiological perspective, it's really important to understand that when we're talking about language and processing in your typical brain, the majority of that is done within your left hemisphere of your brain. When compared with brain scans of somebody who has been diagnosed with dyslexia, the brain scan comparison shows a reduced activity in the left parotemporal area, which is in the left hemisphere, right here. It's for word analysis. And actually phonological processing. In individuals with dyslexia during reading tasks, this is something that's noticed. So there isn't as much activity that's happening in that part of the brain. You can also see here the mid-temporal lobe. This is where somatic parts of reading happens. Really important to understand some really key points. Dyslexia is a complex neurological condition with observable differences in brain activity, particularly in areas responsible for phonological processing. When we're talking about phonological processing, we're really speaking about the way in which we interpret sounds, letters, and on top of that, the way that we pronounce those sounds and letters. Recent research has suggested dyslexia may encompass a spectrum of difficulties with varying neurological profiles. Again, what I was saying earlier is that we can't put dyslexia in a nice little box and diagnose it as such. It's based on individuals. And each individual is going to have some neurodivergent differences. So early intervention holds the potential to positively influence brain development in children with dyslexia. In my work, I would have to say that the earlier the intervention takes place, the earlier the diagnosis takes place, the better and the more effective the intervention is going to be. And when we're talking about neurology, understanding that the brain is in development. So when there are these neurodivergent differences, the earlier on that we're able to actually figure out what's happening for individuals, the better the intervention can be, and the more effective it's going to have moving forward for those individuals. So while traditional subtypes are still useful, ongoing research explores alternative ways of classifying dyslexia based on cognitive profiles. So when we're talking about cognitive profiles, we're talking about basically the way in which you are thinking. So they still do use a lot of, I guess you could say, traditional subtypes. So you've got here phonological dyslexia, which is difficulty with sound letter relationships. You have surface dyslexia, which is difficulty recognizing words by sight. rapid naming deficit dyslexia, which is difficulty quickly naming letters, numbers, or objects. Double deficit dyslexia, which is difficulties with phonological awareness and rapid naming. A lot of sight words would be involved in something like that. And then visual dyslexia, which is quite rare, and it's difficulty perceiving letters or words. So it's really important to understand it's a bit of a jungle. There's a lot of differences that can happen. And I think one of the best ways that maybe we can show it through our presentation today is with a video. So let's take a look here. Hopefully it works. All right. So as you can see, it's pretty complex. I think what was interesting about the video is that it really does show you kind of all the different variations. You saw a lot of word confusion there. You saw a lot of phonologically spelled words and the way that it's interpreted. So I hope that gives you a small window into what it can be like to have dyslexia. You can see there was a ton of complexity within that small video that we watched. So when we're talking about the prevalence and the lifelong impact on dyslexia, we're really thinking about here that it's more common than you think. So up to 20% of the population may have some degree of dyslexia. About 1 in 5 people can suffer from it. It is one of the most common neurobiological differences. Again, it's not a sign of low intelligence or a lack of effort. I really can't stress this enough. When we talk about differences in brains, in the way in which they're organized, in the way in which we process information, as we learn more about the brain and neurology, and we're able to really bring together that education and implement it And in my case, in the public education system, it really does change the lens from which we look at differences. I think that it's really important that we kind of get rid of some of the old language that we use. You'll hear me speaking about dyslexia more in the terms of differences, not in the terms of disorders. And this, it can't be stressed enough. One of the things that, really does get in the way of understanding a difference like dyslexia is all of the stereotypes that are related to it. So it affects individuals from all backgrounds, all different parts of life. Again, as I was saying, not to sound too redundant, but this is so important. Early identification and intervention. It is so important. So we have that available. The earlier, the better. It can really help children to figure out strategies and what it is that they can do. How can they learn differently from a strength-based approach? So what happens when it is not treated is that there are going to be academic difficulties and lower educational attainment throughout their life. Challenges in the workplace and career later on around their career development, social and emotional difficulties, including low self-esteem and anxiety. It's really important. So intervention is key. And I think that if it's not addressed properly, there is a little bit of self-actualization that can happen if you do get a diagnosis later on in life. I've met many people and worked with many students that, struggled with learning. And it wasn't until they were older, even into early adulthood, when they finally kind of figured out what this is what's been going on. Oh, I have dyslexia. Everything makes sense. Oh, there's a reason why I was struggled so much with reading. And so these are really important things that we have to focus on. When it comes to the social, emotional, and the psychological part of this, if you are walking around all day really struggling with something that other people don't struggle with, it does impact you. It changes the way you think about yourself. And so again, when we educate and we move away from a deficit model and more into understanding that all of our brains are different and we have a very neurodivergent society that we live in, just a change and a switch in the perspective can have lifelong changes too that are very positive. So let's talk about some of the early signs of dyslexia and how can we look at those to make a better assessment of what the needs could be, especially in younger childhood. So again, early identification is key. Early intervention really does matter. Professional evaluation is crucial. So remember, these signs may also present in other learning difficulties. So, developmentally speaking, dyslexia is one of multiple different neurocognitive differences that can happen. And there's a lot of gray area here. But these are definitely some signs. These are not all of them. Because remember, it's an individual-based neurocognitive developmental difference. So things that you could look for. And, I can say this right now. This definitely should be looked at by a medical professional, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a pediatrician. These are the people and the professionals that can make a diagnosis based on some of these things that maybe you're seeing. But in any case, this is a starting. So things like delayed speech development, difficulty learning nursery rhymes or songs, trouble recognizing and producing rhyming words, difficulty with letter names and sounds. These are all basic things that we can look at. This is in preschool and kindergarten. When we jump into elementary school, again, slow, inaccurate reading, in many cases, unable to read, difficulty sounding out words, confusing similar looking letters, B and D, E and Q, poor spelling, avoiding reading aloud or completing written assignments. So often there are many kids that struggle with literacy when they first enter school. And this doesn't mean that a child that can't read has dyslexia. But what it should do is raise some flags for you as parents, as educators, that you know what, this is something that we shouldn't ignore, and we should do our due diligence to make sure that these issues get addressed. So again, moving on through the lifespan here, we're talking about signs of dyslexia in adolescents and adults. Again, things to look for: continued difficulty with reading, reading fluency, comprehension, poor spelling and writing skills, difficulty taking notes or following multi-step instructions, avoid reading intensive tasks, low self-esteem related to academic struggles. Another key component that isn't on the slide here is something called executive functioning. So often when we talk about thought process and understanding the way that we organize ourselves, everything down to just putting your pencil on the paper, these functions are called executive functioning. And with dyslexia and this neurodivergent difference, even to do some of these very matter-of-fact tasks can become difficult. So executive functioning is something else that is more than just putting a pen on paper. It's the organization of your thoughts so that you can follow directions clearly, concisely. And so understanding the complexity when it comes to something like dyslexia, it's really important to consider all of these variations and all of these differences. All right, my favorite part of the talk. We're going to talk about strengths, not something that probably is in your wheelhouse here. So when we're talking about dyslexia, it's not just about challenges. It's often linked to unique strengths. So often, if you do have dyslexia or this neurodivergent difference, here are some of the other things that happen that are just amazing. You will have strong visual spatial skills. What is that? Individuals with dyslexia often excel at visualizing and manipulating objects in space, which can be beneficial in the fields like art, design, and engineering. They have an enhanced creativity and imagination. Many people with dyslexia possess a unique ability to think about outside the box, generate innovative ideas, and see connections that others might miss. Another thing, exceptional problem-solving abilities. Dyslexia can foster a persistent and resourceful approach to problem solving, as individuals are often used to finding alternative ways, or they're often used, to finding alternative ways to navigate challenges. Think big picture thinking and more of a holistic understanding. People with dyslexia often excel at seeing the big picture and understanding complex systems, which can be valuable in fields like entrepreneurship, leadership. Leadership roles definitely a huge strength. The entrepreneurial spirit and out of the box thinking. The unique cognitive profile of dyslexia can drive individuals to be innovative, to take risks. These are some of the great things that you can promote if you are ever in a situation where you're working with somebody that has some of these neurodivergent differences. All right, we're going to take a look at a video here. And this is somebody, I guess, that's a celebrity talking about dyslexia and some of their strengths.
It's like a superpower in a way, because you can see things that other people can't. You see the bigger picture.
I'm better at hockey because I know where to stand in the pitch because I can understand the game better. I really like making my own stories.
I love storytelling.
It's like a superpower in a way, because you can see things that other people can't. You see the bigger picture.
I'm better at hockey because I know where to stand in the pitch because I can understand the game better. I really like making my own stories.
I love storytelling and I love communication.
I was always very good at creative writing.
I always make my own songs up in my head.
Actually, I'm a rapper, so then I express myself while rapping.
I would quite like to be a pop star.
I'm so lucky because I always knew I wanted to be an actor and I get to do this for a living.
As a child, I dreamt of being a scientist.
One of my strengths is maths. I like building little robots and lots of different things. Just remember that you're different and it's a good thing.
We talk a lot about how a dyslexic learner is not made for the traditional classroom, they're made for the world. And it's because they see things differently.
Working with dyslexic children, you see that their minds work in very diverse ways. They're able to see the world in a way that we are not.
The strengths they have are incredible. The way they can think around things, the ability to see the big picture.
They are problem solvers, they are outside the box thinkers. Because they process information differently, they're able to see things from different angles.
Many dyslexics are also very good at visualizing the big picture, thinking through multiple steps and seeing connections, almost a symphony of ideas that they can bring together.
Dyslexics are exceptionally curious learners. They're eager to explore. If you tell a dyslexic that something is done in one way, they will find 3, 4, 5 other ways to demonstrate that exact same skill.
Some of the greatest innovations, some of the greatest breakthroughs in our history have come out of a dyslexic mind's refusal to just accept the status quo.
They ask why constantly, which is fun in the classroom. They don't just take information for what it is. They want to know why. They want to know the background. They want reason for it.
Dyslexics tend to be very creative and very good at imagining new ideas. They tend to be innovators. They tend to be entrepreneurs, the game changers in our world, or that disrupt industries, that provide solutions that we didn't even know that we needed, or to solve problems we didn't even know we had.
I may give certain instructions and am expecting a certain outcome, but with my dyslexic kids, I can never predict what they're going to come up with, and it's always, outshines my expectations.
Some dyslexic learners can actually think three-dimensionally. They can move parts around in their heads so that they can understand how in physical space things are connected. This is going to be the child who is very good at Legos, that can put things together. It might be the child that takes paper clips and folded pieces of paper and an eraser and suddenly makes an entire city out of it. It might also be the child who, when you put them on the stage, they suddenly come to life and they have this physical presence where they can move their body in a way that really expresses something. They also could be the child that on the sports field seems to have this premonition of how things are going to work. The child that can predict where the ball is going to go or know to move left when everyone else moves right because they understand that that's how the play is going to come about.
They're able to understand themselves in a way that, of course, helps them in the classroom and outside the classroom, but they're also empathetic and understanding towards others. They're able to make connections with others, so they're wonderful friends, they're compassionate, and they're just really excited to be around others.
They tend to have wonderful relationships and be able to take ideas and communicate things in ways that really resonate with other people. So despite the fact that they might have a difficult time with the written word, and despite the fact they might have a difficult time trying to take their ideas and putting on paper, dyslexics tend to be very, very verbal individuals, and they tend to be very comfortable in that space. That's where they tend to thrive. So at the same time, these are kids that go on to be politicians and great orators and actors, amazing and accomplished writers and authors. Throughout history and even today, some of the most popular writers in the world are dyslexic. And that's because they have an amazing command of our language. They have amazing command of words.
In the classroom, dyslexic students really need an opportunity to shine with their imagination and their creativity. If you want them to be inside the box, they're not going to be.
So many of our dyslexic students are incredibly imaginative. They are daydreamers, but of course with dyslexics they're thinking of so many different things in their mind and coming up with so many creative ideas.
I see a child who's looking out of the window because they're thinking about what you've said, they're processing it, and they're going to give you an incredible answer in a minute when they've worked out how they're going to say it. They're thinking about what you've said and probably linking it to something you haven't even thought of.
It's something that we need to help them understand when is it appropriate, how do we work with them to cultivate that so that we don't diminish that truly amazing capability while also making sure that they do meet the expectations of the classroom.
If you're giving an assignment, I think you need to think of those creative brains and how can they best show what they know.
They like to think. We need to give them time to do that. Dyslexic people like to think. They like to think about what you've asked them and they need time to give you the answer. But they're often thinking because they're good thinkers and they're going to give you something amazing in their response.
Don't just limit it to multiple choice answers or a quiz or a test on paper. How can you as an educator get out the information from them in the way that best suits their brain?
People talk about computers being the fourth industrial revolution. They can do all the linear thinking. They can do the things that are the barriers. A computer can't think laterally around a problem. A computer can only generate the data it's being given. And you need that neurodiversity, you need that dyslexic brain to be able to see that bigger picture.
Without question, dyslexics bring amazing opportunities to the workforce. And when really we think about the 21st century and what it holds and the demands on the jobs of tomorrow, dyslexics are going to thrive and bring so much to that.
We recently produced a report with EY that looked at how important dyslexic thinking skills are for the future. They actually looked at the research that the World Economic Forum had done around how skills are changing and artificial intelligence is completely transforming the skills map that employers are looking for. They then took those skills and mapped them directly across dyslexic thinking skills, and there's a complete match. So we know how hugely important it is that educators right now are looking for those skills and enabling and nurturing them.
I think it's vital that teachers are trained about dyslexics because the world is changing and imagination is key to everything, and there's going to be a lot of kids whose potential are lost unless we train our teachers to effectively teach them.
All right, great video, great video. So, how do we support individuals with dyslexia? Some key points, some really important things to remember. Again, early intervention and early identification. One of the first things that we can do. So recognizing signs of dyslexia early on, providing timely interventions is crucial for improving reading outcomes. Structured literacy instruction. So a systematic and an explicit approach to teaching reading skills, emphasizing phonics, phonemic awareness is a great benefit for individuals with dyslexia. Not sure if you're familiar, programs like Orton Gillingham, here in British Columbia, another program known as the Eden Aerosmith program at UBC. These type of structured literacy programs can be extremely beneficial. Multisensory teaching techniques. So engaging multiple senses, visual and auditory and kinesthetic learning of letters, the alphabet. During instruction, this can really enhance individuals with dyslexia. Specifically, I've been to a couple programs where they do this multisensory approach. Not only do they get kids to trace and learn about letters and their sounds, but they involve things like getting them to trace a letter with a kinesthetic approach where they have sandpaper, or drawing letters in the sand, or using different colors, or I've even seen using laser pointers to draw these letters. So different approaches, different ideas is really what's going to drive a multisensory approach. Assistive technologies, of course, tools like text-to-speech software, audiobooks, and visual organizers can help individuals with dyslexia access information and improve their reading and writing skills. Another thing, and you know, when we're talking about assistive technologies, one thing that is very apparent right now is the introduction of AI. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have heard of ChatGPT. It is a phenomenal tool for people that definitely have a neurodivergent brain. We are on the cusp of an explosion of different ways of learning and understanding the world around us. And this is definitely a assistive technology that it really is going to be a game changer, as I think we're all coming to understand. So other things within the classroom that we can look at are accommodations and modifications. So providing extra time for tests, allowing oral responses, or using alternative formats for assignments. These things can really level the playing field for individuals that have dyslexia. I can't tell you the number of times where I've just sat down and helped a student and written or scribed for them. And the amount of information that flowed out of them was shocking to the teachers that were involved and that were helping out. You know, simply by making these small accommodations, we really move the barriers out of the way for these young learners. So, as we move into this more tech-savvy world, as you can see in the picture here, my view board, you know, the way in which we present materials can really be beneficial. So we're talking about adjusting how information is presented. Teachers can make it more accessible to students with dyslexia. Here at Ashton College, we do this a lot. We provide recordings of all the lectures that we do online. These are differences that may seem small, but to individuals that have a neurodivergent brain, these are huge. So modifying assignments and assessments ensure students with dyslexia can demonstrate their knowledge and their skills without being unfairly penalized for their reading and writing challenges. The classroom environment in general, creating a positive and supportive learning environment can help students with dyslexia feel more confident and engaged in their learning. When we're talking about the classroom environment, it really is the small things. You know, having a student that you know maybe has that neurodivergent difference, you put them in a different part of the classroom. You put them up front, or put them in a place where they're able to have some privacy a little bit more, or receive some one-on-one assistance in the classroom. It's these small changes that really can make a monumental difference in kids that have dyslexia. All right, and so not only do we talk about this in public school, but this also has some pretty strong impacts into the workforce, becoming an adult. So in the workplace, excuse me, adults with dyslexia can benefit from accommodations that address their specific needs and allow them to perform their jobs effectively. This can include flexible work arrangements, assistive technology, training for colleagues, and clear communication strategies. So when we're talking about accommodations and things that we can do within the workplace, you know, it can be things as little as being able to work from home. So you have all of your assistive technologies there. Even in providing those in the workplace. There are things like there's pens that you can use now that will read words when you run the pen over top of the word. There's programs like Speechify, which I'm not sure if you're aware of or not, where basically it will read a whole book for you. In post-secondary education, students with dyslexia can access various accommodations to support their learning, including extended time on exams, note-taking assistance, alternative format textbooks, assistive technologies, counseling services. So these accommodations can help level the playing field and allow students with dyslexia to reach their full potential. Okay. As I've mentioned before, some really key points, some great assistive technologies and tools that can really help with dyslexia. So things like text-to-speech software. It can significantly improve reading comprehension and fluency for individuals with dyslexia by reducing the cognitive load associated with decoding text. When we're talking about cognitive load, that is simply the amount of effort and thought that we need to employ just to read text. Then we have speech-to-text software. Almost all of your phones do this already. So these can help individuals with dyslexia express their thoughts and ideas in a written form more easily, bypassing the challenge of handwriting or typing. Audiobooks offer an accessible and engaging way for individuals with dyslexia to enjoy literature and learn more information. This one's kind of cool. Optical character recognition. So optical character recognition enables individuals with dyslexia to access printed materials in a digital format, allowing them to utilize things like text-to-speech software and other assistive technologies. I'm not sure if any of you've seen, Apple has recently released their Apple glasses, which basically is a form of augmented virtual reality. Mind mapping software. Mind mapping tools can help individuals with dyslexia organize their thoughts, make connection between ideas, and improve comprehension. Mind mapping software is fantastic. It provides a visual platform to organize your thoughts. And there are many different platforms out there right now. As I spoke about earlier, reading pens can provide immediate support for decoding unfamiliar words, accessing definitions, and improving reading comprehension. Another thing that's quite interesting is cover overlays and tinted lenses. While not effective for everyone, colored overlays and tinted lenses can alleviate visual stress and enhance reading comfort for some individuals with dyslexia. There are so many different technologies out there, and it's getting broader and larger and more amazing every single day. All right. So we're coming to the end here. Some things I really hope that you can take away from this presentation. First one, early intervention is best. Early identification and intervention, as well as the effectiveness of evidence-based strategies like multisensory instruction, structured literacy programs. These are the things that are going to make the difference. All right? And here's the deal, everyone. It's up to us as educators, as parents, and community, the community surrounding individuals, to educate each other. This is a bit of a call to action, that we have to adjust our lens. We have to be willing to understand that our neurobiology is different. And this is not a deficit. These are differences. It's really important that we embrace the unique strengths that all individuals can give. We have to advocate for their needs. This is about equity. This is about allowing everyone to have the same starting point. All right. So I want to thank all of you. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Our time together is quick. And so far, I hope you've gotten something from this presentation. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of your questions. So now's the time where we can take a look at Q&A. Davina, I'm not sure if you want to come back in here, or if you just like me to read from the chat. Let me know what would work best.
Either works. If you want to read from the chat, but works for me.
Okay, great. Let me bring that up here. All right, so the first one, from your own experience, can you tell us or give us an example of when the strengths of dyslexic learners really showed? Oh, so many times. I can remember on multiple occasions having students that have dyslexia doing group projects. What happened quite a bit, I can think of one student in particular. When it came to doing a particular task, that was not his strengths. But one of his strengths was his leadership abilities. So in a school setting, if you're doing group work together, this student was always the leader. And the reason being is that they always saw the big picture. So they weren't the greatest at doing the research part. They weren't the greatest at, writing down, in many cases, notes, but they were the ones that were able to point out and guide other students in their group to really, be specific. So they would be able to say, you are going to do the writing, and I think you'll be really good at doing some drawing. And so a leadership perspective was really great. And then being able to kind of bring those whole ideas together. I think that's a really great example, and one of many. From the video that we saw, it was expressed many, many different times that there were tons of strengths that could come from it. If you had to choose one, what is the most important fact every educator should know about dyslexia? That's a good question. Well, I would say probably this isn't just regarding dyslexia. I think probably one of the most important things, and this is what I tell students constantly, is that education is about relationships. And if you are going to work with a neurodivergent student, you better make sure that you have a great relationship with that student, especially if you're going to help them in any way, shape, or form. So one of the most important facts I can say is be good at building relationships with kids and people in general. There is no space for you not to have that skill set if you are going to be an educator. And so I can't really say that enough. I say it to my students all the time. They roll their eyes at me. I'm sure they're sick of hearing me say it, but it's about relationships. So, educators, you need to know that you have to be able to have a good relationship with any student who has a neurodivergent difference, including dyslexia. The next point, what do you think is the most challenging or your favorite thing when working with dyslexic learners? Great question. I would say more than anything, it's the unknown and the differences that each individual can bring. Being constantly surprised by the strengths of individuals with dyslexia is probably one of the greatest parts. Okay. I hope, or looking, Davina, is there any more questions? That's what I've gotten so far.
Yes, those are all the questions.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, I want to thank all of you for joining us here this evening. I really look forward to continuing on at Ashton College, and I really appreciate the time that you've provided me to talk about this really fascinating and very nuanced neurodivergent difference. Just to let you all know that I do have a resource page and a handout that should go out to all of you. Hopefully, Davina, you've been able to send that out to our participants. And if there's no other questions, again, thank you all very much. This is my contact information. Feel free at any time if you want to contact me, get in touch with me. I am available at Ashton College. And I'm going to pass it back to Davina.
Thank you so much, Todd, for this very insightful lecture or presentation. And yeah, thank you to everyone attending and asking questions. And the recording of the session will be uploaded, so you can watch it anytime. Yes, and yeah, thank you to everyone again, and have a great evening.